Welcome to Realign Journey, the unfiltered guide to self-discovery and reconnection. I'm Sierra Sambrowski, your host, and together we'll deep dive the topics that have caused us to lose touch with our inner selves and explore ways to reconnect to our authentic being by discussing with guests the path they've taken and what they've learned. This week I have with me Tennille. Tennille has spent over a decade building more than just another photography studio. She's built a safe place where others can be themselves without judgment. As a boudoir photographer, she has helped moms and wives find their own true identity, self-worth, confidence, and an undeniable spark that helps them become more intoxicating in all of their relationships. Hi, Tennille. Thanks for being here.
Hi, that was so well said. Thank
Hey,
you.
thanks. You're very welcome. I'm really excited to have you here today because, as we've talked about, even when we were prepping, sexual energy and sexual awareness for ourselves is something that has really been kind of repressed or blocked off for many of us. So, do you just want to start out by explaining, in your definition, what do you believe sexual energy is, or how would you explain sexual energy and sexual awareness?
So I think that, like we talked about before, the sexual energy has a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings. A lot of people have never even heard of the word, sexual transmutation as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I could dumb it down and simplify it, because there's literally 1,000 different, variants of what people, how people perceive sexual awareness and sexual energy, but it really comes down to confidence and boundaries. And
Mm,
to me, it's, confidence, for example, and that's what we'll talk about today, is the
yeah.
confidence side is self-awareness, learning your body, mostly internally, knowing your self-worth, knowing what you will, and then that comes into the confidence side. And then the boundary side that we'll talk about is knowing, again, your self-worth, but knowing what you will put up with, what you won't put up with, what you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate, what you
Mm.
like. So that really comes down to the boundary side as well. And, and so I think that we'll dive really deep into a lot of those, but really just to dumb it down, it's confidence and boundaries.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what it brings out. And so, because a lot of like the misconceptions is, that it comes out to be about pleasure, about sexual pleasure, physical pleasure. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. It's about the emotional pleasure, what you get out of it emotionally, which then builds that confidence and the feeling desired, feeling wanted, feeling creative, and all of that. So, anyways, that's what it means to me. But again, there are 1,000 different ways that people interpret sexual energy and sexual awareness.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And honestly, I've never really thought about it being boiled down to just confidence and boundaries. But like you said, it is one of those things. It's this area in our lives, I think, culturally, societally, and then, of course, we translate that into our own personal lives where we keep this blocked off. There's some kind of fear, or is it just stigma that you see with your clients that you work with that keeps them from not exploring it, from not understanding the way that it taps into their self-confidence and self-worth?
Oh, 100%. They feel like if they live their lives authentically and true to themselves, like have their true inner selves, that they're
Mhm.
going to be judged, whether it's through, through the way that their parents raised them, through society, through social media, through religion. There are so many different aspects in our lives that that teach us to suppress our sexual energy and our sexual desires, and it is such a shame. It is such a
Mhm.
shame. But that is their own internal blockage of just not living their true life, their true, being their true selves. And
Mhm.
I'm a believer in helping women live their authentic, unapologetically, them. So, but I think that, yeah, I think that it's society religion, parents. It's a little bit of everything that teaches us to be a lady and, all these different things. And,
Yeah.
or they're afraid to talk about what they want because, again, being judged, but they're afraid that they're not going to be PC, or, you know what I mean? It's just, everyone has everything to say on social media, especially. It's gotten really bad. And so I really try to tell people, knock it off. Who cares what people are going to think? Just live your best life.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a little bit about your story. And so you've not had a whole lot of shame or self-judgment around your own sexuality, correct?
I just ignore it. So,
Okay.
like when my mom, my mom first, knew that I was a boudoir photographer. I'm like, yeah, I'm a boudoir photographer and I take naked pictures. She's like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, because I like to shock people with things that come out of my mouth, just to
Uh-huh.
shock them, to shut them up. And so I'm like, yep, I tell my ladies to spread their legs wide open. And I mean, I went full force, but of course that's not true. But I did that to shock her, to shut her up. And at first she was very judgmental about it. She was very ashamed of, I mean, I shouldn't say she was very ashamed. I believe she was ashamed of what I did for a living.
Mhm.
Because boudoir photography, a lot of people think that it has a stigma of porn, and it's not. Um,
Mhm.
it's not. It's far from it. But they think, that's the first thing that comes into their mind is risque pornography, and it's not. So I just ignored my own feelings that my mom may have had, about me doing what I do. But it was I know she felt that way until she met one of my clients, because she came out here I'm from Hawaii, and she came to visit me from Hawaii. And she met one of my clients who happened to come and pick up her products from me. And she looked at her products in front of my mom and broke down in tears,
Mhm.
and told my mom all about how much she appreciated me and what I did for her and how I changed her life and all of these things. And that was the exact moment that my mom became my biggest supporter. And so
Mhm.
my mom is my absolute biggest supporter. She loves seeing the photos, of course, with my client's permission. But yeah. So I did deal with, some judgment, some shame, but I just ignore it. I really don't give a shit what people think of me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry if your listeners don't like me cussing.
Oh, no, 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 no. They're very used to my swearing. I swear like a sailor. Um, and I was really reflecting a lot about kind of my own evolution sexually as I've evolved and healed all these different parts of me. And it's so funny when I heard you speak the other weekend to a group of ladies that you came and visited us and talked with us. And I was like, oh my God, why do we ignore really digging into and getting in touch with ourselves and embracing ourselves in a sexual way and releasing that part of ourselves? Because it's such the energy of, like you said, for me, I would have said, you said confidence and boundaries, which I think is exceptional. And I love that. I probably, before hearing you say that, because I'll probably steal that now. Before hearing you say that, I would have thought like it's about self-worth, it's about self-expression, and it's truly an act of self-love, not just physically from learning how to be able to pleasure yourself and accept your body the way it is and all those sort of things, but just in embracing all parts of you. Because anytime we compartmentalize that off to the side, one piece of us, then it perpetuates this idea of not loving ourselves, and like builds in the background. It's like that corner in the house that we don't clean, and then it just keeps getting worse. I don't know what the hell we think. It's not going to get fucking better.
Right?
And so that sexual part, that part that we deny, I imagine that must be it too. And so to hear you talk about that release, I just think from another client, I imagine you must see that all the time though. Do you
Oh,
not?
I
Like
do.
that
And
breakthrough?
I do. And I think that, and I can talk about a whole different topic, all about identity issues. I mean, that is
Mhm.
like biggest issues. And that also comes down to sexual exploration, and everything is just, God, knowing who you are and
Mm.
you're all about. And everything that you had just talked about, the self-worth, self-love, and all of that, that all comes down to that creates the confidence, and that
Yeah.
creates like having all of that. No, again, knowing who you are. But oh yeah, I ask a lot of I'm very open with my clients, very
Mm-hmm.
open with my clients, and I'm so not PC and not your traditional um, boudoir photographer. But I ask them flat out, do you masturbate? Do you touch yourself? Do you know how to love yourself? And
Right.
they most of the time they're uncomfortable for a split second. They're uncomfortable, like not uncomfortable, more shocked that I asked them that question. But then they're like, oh, this is Tennille. It's totally typical of Tennille to ask me that. So, and so they're honest with their answer. And that way I am able to help guide them through poses of touching themselves. And when I say touching yourself, I don't mean in between the legs. I mean touching your ear, touching your lips, touching your neck, touching your breast, touching your chest, touching your stomach, touching your inner thigh. Women are incredibly uncomfortable touching themselves, and they, in my opinion, they can't be true authentic lovers with their partner if they don't even know how to touch themselves.
Mm.
And it is so anyway, so throughout my photography, I help them touch, I teach them to touch themselves, I guide
Mm-hmm.
themselves, and it makes for the best, beautiful, authentic photography, or photographs. And so um anyways, I don't know if that was answering your question or not, but I told you, I warned you that I
That's
go into
okay.
little signs.
No. Yeah, that's fine. I have those conversations with everybody in my life, including on this podcast. So listeners are well aware that we like all of a sudden will start going off and we come back. We always come back.
The yellow brick
Uh,
road, it's all good.
yeah, yeah. That whole piece about getting comfortable touching yourself, and not just masturbation, not just in that way, right? But just being able, and again, like you're saying these things, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I came through my own sexual evolution. There's plenty more to do there. But I think it is absolutely equated with where I fall in line with my own confidence and my own self-worth. Like, I think as I've gotten better in those areas, my sexual and maybe vice versa, some of my sexual transmutation, for the better lack of a better word, I don't know what the right word is, but that transformation sexually has also spurred some of these other areas of healing, just like you were talking about. But I think, like, I got real comfortable with being able to masturbate and knowing how to do that in the way that pleasures myself, makes myself feel the best, knowing what doesn't feel good, so that I can relay it also to partners. However, what's really interesting is, like, I hear you say about like being able to touch other places on your body, and I'm like, I think that might make me a little uncomfortable. And it's like, but why? So it's,
Why?
I don't know. I mean, do you have thoughts on this? Like, how is it that you are able to move into, like, I'll say personally for me, though, sex has largely been just sexual energy. Like, it's been sort of a physical act, a physical release. Um, that's my own trauma story. That's my own things that I have. I've used it in this very compartmentalized way that's been a little more, I mean, animalistic probably isn't the greatest word to use. That's probably a little stronger and harsher, but just in this like really like biological way. Like, I have urges, I want to release the urges, I want to do it well, right? like
As
task
you
and
should.
accomplishment. Yeah, right. Yeah. But disconnecting it back to myself and using it as a reflection of where I am in my self-worth and my self-confidence and my personal boundaries, that's something that was happening, and that I don't know that I had context to until you started explaining it that way. So, do you have some kind of idea why that would be, or like where that would come from, that people can push themselves in a sexual exploration kind of way, but not be able to tie it back to actually connecting to themselves? Am I
Such a
explaining that?
such a great question. I think that if you find the right techniques of first you figure out what sexual energy means to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first and most important questions. What does it mean to you? And then when you find that out, figuring out the right practices, the right techniques of being able to create that. So whether it's let's talk about masturbation for an example,
Sure.
or solo practices. It could be anything from self pleasure to meditation. It could be engaging in sensual activities without the goal of having an actual orgasm,
Mm-hmm.
and like tantra and um, pole dancing, things like that, where you feel sensual, you feel sexual, you feel beautiful, you feel all those, but you're feeling. That is the most important thing, is that you're feeling something. And I think what you were talking about before, it was more so much physical and wham,
Mm-hmm.
bam, and rar, but
Yeah.
getting that deep internal pleasure is where it's great to practice that. And again, it could be through meditation, it could be through pole dancing, or anything that doesn't cause the end result of an orgasm. um,
Mm-hmm.
breath work is great. Taking deep rhythmic breathing can help stay grounded. It could relax the body, it could circulate energy throughout the system. Being mindful awareness. Like for example, being fully present in the moment when you're with your partner, focusing on the sensations that your
Mm-hmm.
partner's touching you, that you're touching yourself during sex. So there's a lot of things that you can do to be able to create that emotional, the emotional sexual energy during sex, so that way you can get the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think harnessing different practices is really important. Sorry, let me decline this phone call. My neighbor's calling me. Sorry.
Hi, neighbor. Um, yeah, so yeah, and I think that's really kind of what I wanted to explore in this conversation with you is not just the physical aspects of it, but as you're talking, I'm like having all these like deep epiphanies, like, oh yeah.
You're like, oh,
Um
wait, there's more.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
there's
and I
more.
know it in my head, right? Like I know things in my head sometimes, but I it's interesting because I typically have had trouble pulling things down into my body. And yet sex
Right.
was like that area where I was like, this is all body.
Yeah.
like just don't get in your head. But it's so about, and again, this doesn't have to be the actual act of sex with a partner. It's just about, like, even with the pole dancing, I think, like, that's about tapping into this energetic self of, like your deeper self, and listening to yourself and going, how does this make me feel?
Right.
Because I think that's so much of not what we are taught to do, you
Right.
know, and
Oh,
we just don't explore it. And so exploring it through sexual stuff is a way to maybe circumvent some of the other emotional things that people want to avoid.
right. I mean, well, like pole dancing, for example. I'm such a huge advocate for pole dancing because it is not a sexual thing. Yeah, there's strippers that do it, and that's beautiful, but it is truly it is truly learning how to own your body, how
Mhm.
to it's all about sensuality versus sexuality. And I think strippers would even agree with me. It's artwork, it's about moving your body, it's creating the flow, it's creating that movement of sensuality throughout the whole dance. And it's also a great exercise,
Yeah.
but it's learning how to move your body. When you mention like what you like, what you don't like, when it comes to like touching yourself and things like that, that is incredibly important, because as women, and this goes for everybody, our whole conversation goes for male, women, transgenders, everybody. But
Right.
but for example, a woman though, what feels good to us at one moment and feels really right and feels amazing and so pleasurable, so energetic, and just it consumes your body. Might not feel the exact same way 5 minutes later, because I swear to God, we have different personalities 5 minutes, within 5 minutes. God, and it drives my husband crazy because I'm like, don't touch me, don't touch me, touch me. Oh my God, I love it. Don't touch me. So so my poor husband, he's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, that's okay, I'll guide you. So
yeah.
And it also, comes down to the time of the month. Sometimes I love my nipples pulled and bitten and yanked and sucked on. And then certain times of the month, I'm like, don't go near them.
Yeah.
So, it's just, but you would only know that by being able to, when you've explored your body more often. And, so I'm a firm believer in constantly, constantly exploring your body. So, because like I said before, how can you guide your partner in what you like? Certain times of the month or certain times of the universe is, in line or whatever, if you don't even know.
Yeah.
They're lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, it is a loss.
Yeah, they're lost. We're lost. We're all fucked.
Yeah.
So, we're a puzzle piece that's missing the freaking last piece of the little puzzle. It's like,
yeah. Yeah. But in some ways, it's part of the fun of it is that you get to keep looking. So I'm thinking there's probably people listening that don't even have any idea where to start, that are so uncomfortable and are so disconnected to their physical bodies, let alone attaching any kind of sexual energy or any kind of sexuality or sensuality to it.
Right.
So do you have any kind of tips or advice or things that people can just start to get more comfortable with the idea of exploring themselves and discovering themselves that way?
Oh, absolutely. First, I would say don't use any toys at the beginning. Learn, put on whatever, makes you feel sexy, whether, because some women are not comfortable being naked. Right. And even during sex, you don't have to be. Wear what makes you comfortable. That is the biggest thing, is, again, that comes down to confidence. So, if, like, my best friend wears a large gown when she has sex because she doesn't like her stomach, she doesn't like her body. So therefore, that's what she wears. And because that's when she can finally relax. And that is the most important thing, is being able to relax. So my advice is, one, the first thing is to start by yourself without a partner, exploring yourself. Our everyone's different. Everybody's different. The clitoris, for an example, is so unique, and some people like it touched on the side, some people like it touched on the top of the bone area, some people like it touched on the bottom. Same thing with the penis. Everybody's different. But really exploring how you like your clit or your labia or anything else touched. There's nothing wrong with that. It is a freaking beautiful thing. It's just incredible. It's one of the most sensational muscles, or whatever it is. I don't even know if it's a muscle, but whatever.
I think it has like the most nerve endings or something, right?
Yeah, like that in the tongue,
body, something like that.
Go figure. So that would be the first thing I would say, is start learning how to touch yourself. Again, it could be anything from, some people have more pleasure off of literally touching their ears. Every single person is different when it comes to the pleasure that they receive from different sensations on their body. So whether it is your ears that you love being touched, or you have a foot fetish and you love touching feet, well, then touch your feet if that gets you off. Whatever it is that gets you off and makes you feel within one of yourself, if that's even a correct phrase, but feeling one with your own body, that is an important thing. It does not have to be your vagina or your penis. I'd normally say your pussy or your cock, but anyways, so that would be the first thing. Second thing is figure out, start exploring, not figuring out, but explore. Are you a person that likes penetration, or are you more clitoral? That is huge, because a lot of people don't know. And they're like, I've never had an orgasm. I don't even know what a real orgasm is. And I'm going to talk about orgasms in a second, but The so if you figure out, do you like dildos? Do you like anal play? Dildos, butt
Mhm.
plug, like that. There's all different types: vibrating ones, ones that don't vibrate, ones that move in and out automatically for you. I mean, there's thousands. So figure out if you are a clitoral or a penetrated type, um, orgasm type person.
Mhm.
In order to explore that, it gets expensive. One thing that my clients get, because I'm going to throw in a little plug here. I don't get anything out of it. Honestly, I get nothing out of it. But adamandeve.com, which is a wonderful sex website, they gave me a code to give to all my clients and all of my friends and family. They give them a discount, so they get 50% off plus free shipping. My clients love that because they can explore different products without breaking the bank. And then
Mhm.
they're guilty of spending $60 on, like my favorite toy is the Hitachi magic wand. That's my favorite. That's really the only thing that gets me off, because I'm a
Okay.
clitoral stimulating type
Uh-huh.
person. I'm not into dildos. Dildos do nothing for me. However, you mix that with my husband, that's a
Right.
whole different ball, so I
Yeah.
like the combination. Again, everyone's different. Um, when it comes to uh, orgasms, to kind of change the subject a little bit, we are very special as women. We're really, really special. Some people think that an orgasm has to be like, floodgates, squirting, making the bed soaking wet. No, it doesn't. We're very unique. A lot of us women have internal orgasms and external orgasms, is how I call it. I don't know what the scientific word is for it, whatever. But that's how I describe it. And so my husband's like, "Did you even have an orgasm?" I'm like, "I did. It was all internal because I didn't get wet." You don't have to get wet. It can be so internal. And that, to me, is the sexual energy, is
Okay.
part of the sexual energy, is when I have my internal orgasm, because I am all within myself. I am fully aware um, of the feelings of, this, the just the sensations of all of that. And I think that gives me the biggest orgasms, is when I'm having an internal one where I'm not actually coming,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, but everybody's different. Some have the biggest ones when they're squirting. So again, everybody's different. And that is why you have to explore your body, because everyone is different. There's no textbook on this. I mean, there is, but it's all bullshit. I'm sorry, it's all bullshit, because
Yeah.
it's usually written by a freaking man. So, just explore your body, and then you will be fine. All is well in the world when you, you know.
Yeah.
So, another thing real quick is, when it comes to that, do not feel bad if you haven't had an orgasm. I think that 99.999% of um, the reason why we don't have orgasms, or when we don't have orgasms, is because of a couple of reasons. One, the stars have not lined up in the universe, because we're just like, we're stressed, we're thinking about a million things,
Mhm.
to-do list, whatever. We're not
Mhm.
focused. Two is because we're lacking something in that relationship. We are lacking trust. We're
Mhm.
lacking respect. When you lack respect and you lack trust, it is so impossible to have a real orgasm, because you're not allowing your partner to give you that pleasure, because they don't deserve to give you that pleasure.
Mhm.
You deserve yourself that pleasure. So I think that you have to really look into your relationship. Is that relationship with your partner, do they bring you trust and respect?
Mhm.
Anyways.
I would say, yeah, plus if you don't know your own body, if you don't know what's going to get you off, and then you don't have the relationship
Mhm.
with yourself, because that was like part of it for me, was not, it was not as much about not trusting my partners, is I had this real deep fear around asking that showed up in all areas of my life, not just sexually. Like,
Right.
it was like even a childhood thing. Like, I was afraid to ask to go over to a friend's house. Like, I just had this really deep internal thing about being afraid to ask. So when it came to sex, it
You were
was
afraid of
like,
because you were afraid of the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that translated into my sexual relationship. So it was easy to get myself off because I didn't have to ask anybody. Right. So, but
Independence. Yeah, you own your body. Nobody else owns your body but
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
So there's all kinds of reasons why you maybe have not had orgasms at this point, but it is about what I hear you saying is that it's about starting to get to know yourself, get comfortable with yourself, and really just exploring them after that. Because I think there's a little bit of inhibition around exploring until you can start to get comfortable with yourself. So
Oh, right. And then, the thing is, like, you have to be comfortable with yourself, because let's say, for example, what if you know how to get yourself off and you know how to explore your body, but you're with a partner that is lacking experience or lacking confidence sexually? Um, then you don't get off by them. So you have to be able to get off yourself. And if you have a good, honest relationship and communication with your partner, they don't mind you using toys during sex. They don't mind all of that, because it doesn't bring out insecurity for them, because they know that they're getting the best of both. You're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting them and the connection, the intimacy, the love with them, but you're also, getting yourself off. So it's another reason why it's important to know what you like and don't like. Otherwise, you're going to live a very miserable sexual life if you have a partner that is not fulfilling your
yeah,
needs. Again, that goes for both ways, male or female. Um, so,
yeah.
but it's, when I started my sex blogs, is because I was at Barnes and Noble one day looking for a specific book from my favorite writer, and I saw this cute little girl, or not little, but she was a cute girl, like in her 20s, and so she looked so lost in the sex book section. And I'm so open. So I'm like, what you looking for? And so she just looked at me all scared. And she's like,
Embarrassed.
well, I'm getting married. And I just, so turns out she
Oh,
is very religious. She's just scared to death to Google anything, because she's afraid that somebody's going to see what she's Googled.
oh,
And she doesn't know what to Google, because she doesn't know what to ask for. And so she was deciding to go to the bookstore to see if there's any books that would teach her how to have sex, teach her how to
oh,
teach her all these things. And I'm like, okay, this is the book you need. And this is the book you need. And la 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 la. And so but that's when the light bulb went on, when, oh my God, I need to start writing sex blogs of my relationship with my husband and our sexual activities and
mhm.
our sexual journey. So that way people like her can just be reading a blog,
Yeah,
and so, I
yeah.
don't know why I even went down that whole road. But anyway,
That's okay.
I
I mean,
told you, Sarah, I told you that you were getting the new
That's okay. That's okay. Because I think what it really does is bring home the fact to anybody listening, like, there's all kinds of levels of not knowing. And
right,
so there's nothing to be embarrassed about, but we can start now. And
right,
it really goes back to my main intention with bringing this topic forward is that when we're denying ourselves the sexual, there's a lack of connection within ourselves that's impacting all these other areas in our lives, because it is about our self-worth. It is about our confidence. It is about knowing who we are. And if we don't know who we are and we don't have any self-worth, then we can't set boundaries. And it's like everything is this domino. And so it's really important that we embrace wherever we are with our sexual awareness and go, okay, I want to do better because it's going to help me be better.
right.
And you also just opened the door about your relationship with your husband, and you guys have a challenge. I'd love to just kind of explore that a little bit and hear about what you have been learning about yourself and how it's helped your relationship. So, do you just want to tell everybody what is
Yeah.
this challenge that you have been on with your husband? Because it's amazing.
So when we're young empty nesters, and so when our daughter moved out, she went off to college, and my husband and I are like, okay, now what? We're no longer like your traditional parents, because we don't have a child living at home. And so my husband came up to me one day, and he's like, he read an article from some celebrity that did a 30-day sex challenge and how it changed their lives and their relationship and whatever. And so he's like, what about, and we've always had a good sex life. I mean, great sex life, don't get me wrong. But he's like, let's try a 16-day challenge and let's have sex every single day for 16 days, no excuses. And, we make this a priority. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, let's do it. And because a lot of what we didn't want to happen is to become a lot of our friends, where once the kids go away to college, the parents feel lost and they don't know what their true identity is anymore. They don't know what their purpose in life is anymore. They grow apart from their partners, and all these different things. And so we're like, no, we're staying together forever. So let's make sure that we stay connected.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he started off with, we started off with the 16 days, and then, which was, in all honesty, was probably the hardest thing we've ever done in our entire marriage. It was very difficult because, there's easy times to make up excuses. I'm too tired. I work too hard. We own 3 companies, so we get exhausted. And so, or I'm on my period, or I'm bitchy, or I'm batshit crazy today, whatever it is, there's reasons why you don't want to have sex and you're just not feeling it, but you had to because you're in this challenge. So we did 16 days. And at the end of the 16 days, my husband's like, so what do you want to do now? I said, well, screw it. Let's try 30. And so by then, he says he lost 6 layers of skin. And I'm sitting there going, I look like a, sub sandwich, with meat spilling out, it was just not pretty. We were very swollen. And so, but anyway, so we did 30 days. And then after that 30 days, he bought me a sexual gift that was a lot of fun. And it was a calendar from Adam and Eve. And it was a 30-day calendar, sex calendar. And so I'm like, oh, I guess he wants to go for another 30 days. And so we did that. And then another 60 days and then another 90 days. And then after a while, it becomes routine, and not in a bad way. It becomes part of like, okay, this is just what we're going to do. And we're, you brush your teeth at night, you have sex. So we made a priority to continue the challenge. And even with fights and arguments and everything else, which I can go into all those details, but, we still did it. Even with him having COVID, he's like, baby, I'm tapping out. I can't do it at 102 temperature. I'm like, I got you, baby. I got you. And I did I did all the work. So, but it's creating a bond between 2 people that is undeniable and so special, because not only is a marriage, you already committed into a marriage, but now this is a commitment in a commitment. And having 2 people on the same wavelength, the same priorities, the same goal is almost impossible. And especially for as long as we've been doing it. So I am very proud to say that we've broken every record in history. We have broken every Guinness Book of World Records. The only reason we can't be in Guinness Book of World Records is because we did not have a witness watching us have sex every single day. We're good with that. So, and we didn't do it to be able to brag about how long we've been having sex, because in all honesty, our friends hate hearing about it because it reminds them of what they don't have and what they're not doing. But August 6th, of this year, which we are in 2023. So August 6th will be 4 years straight. And we started it August 7th of 2019. So before COVID. But here's my point to this. And yes, we have had sex every single day, guys. This is no joke. It's no fluff or anything like that. We made it such a priority that we're so incredibly, competitive that now that it's gone so long, I am not going to be the reason we've quit. And he says the same thing. He's like, I'm not going to be the reason we quit. You're going to be the reason we quit. And I'm like, fuck you. I'm going to continue on. So when we fight, it's really funny because when we fight, he's like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with the sex challenge. I'm like, well, good for you, because I'm still ready to go. And so now we're going to quit because of you, that kind of thing. So because I know how special this is to us, and I know how important it is to us, that we're not going to allow one stupid ass fight ruin our challenge. So anyways, but here it comes back to the sexual energy and the sexual transmutation part of it. Since we started doing this, we have been even more connected with each other. We have very, very few fights. And when we fight, we know that we have to get to the root of the problem immediately. Otherwise, it's going to dive into nighttime activities. And that's not going to make it for fun, for a fun evening. So we rip off the Band-Aid. We get down and dirty into that conversation very quickly, and we don't allow the fight to linger on for days. It stops right then and there. So our communication is incredible. Second thing that is wonderful about it is we have both become way more successful than ever before, ever since doing it. We both of our businesses have thrived through COVID. Mine kind of tanked a little bit because I'm a photographer and I couldn't get within 6 feet, but his thrived. We've made more money than before. We bought our first house together at the very beginning of COVID. We have built a 500 square foot custom greenhouse together. There's so many things that we've done together because we are one. We are joined as one unit, and that is so powerful. But we also know how rare it is, and we also know that it's not for everybody. And we know that if you have children in the home, young children, you're freaking exhausted. There's no way that you'd be able to do something like this. For this long. There isn't. That's why we had to wait till we waited until we were empty nesters. But my advice to people, if you can't do a sex challenge of the physical sex portion of it, do an intimacy challenge. And that's what I tell a lot of my ladies in my private Facebook group is do an intimacy challenge. I don't care if that's him brushing your freaking hair at night or giving you compliments, touching each other's butt while you're doing dishes. Some type of intimacy, some type of connection between the two so you don't grow apart and just become glorified roommates. That is the most important thing, is to do some type, show each other that you are wanted, that you are desired. So I think that is the biggest takeaway, not necessarily the penetration part, the sex, all that. It's the intimacy side. It's the deep connection, the emotional side of knowing that your partner wants you, your partner desires you. You feel that you're important to them. So that to me is way more important than the actual act of sex. So there you go. So we just celebrated 1,400 days, if that answers your question. And by the way, my mom is very angry with us because I told my mom, my husband had to tell his dad because my mom wanted to go on vacation with me and I couldn't go on vacation with my mom to see my niece and her baby. And I had to tell her why, and she's not very happy with me right now. So it is what it is. Oh, and you're muted. I can't hear you.
Oh, there we go. I was going to say, so we talked about, what this has done for your relationship. And you mentioned about the challenge, how it's actually helped bring a lot of abundance and growth in your businesses to each other. What's one of the things that you can say has helped you grow or heal in yourself most from this challenge with your husband?
I would say the exploration of communication when we're in the jacuzzi. When we're in the jacuzzi at night, because we go in the jacuzzi every single night and have a drink and talk, and we're not allowed to talk business in the jacuzzi because I don't want the jacuzzi being tainted with negativity. So we only talk about us or, gossip about our friends. So, but that is our time to talk about our fantasies, our desires, our what do we want to do next? What position do we want to do next? So I think it's the communication. Mm-hmm. And because we both are at this point in our lives where, not that we shouldn't have been before, but it's just natural that you're afraid that your partner is going to judge you. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, what about going to a sex club and watching, people have sex and, or whatever. I mean, because we've watched porn and, and stuff like that. So I'm like, what about doing it in person? And he's like, all right, let's do it. But without the actual communication, without actually saying it and feeling safe to say it, mm-hmm. We may never do it. So, but I think that's really what, to answer your question, I think that's really what it was. It's just the communication between the two of us of feeling safe, mm-hmm. to be able to express some of our fantasies, some of our desires, or, or thoughts and things like that. So we can explore each other's bodies even more. Yeah. So I think that's really what it came down to is communication, or safe. And again, I feel safe with my husband, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's always a deeper level of feeling safety in ourselves and with another person. I think that's something that can always grow and evolve and just get deeper, I think. That's
Well,
just
we're
one of
always
those things.
changing. My
Yeah.
God, we're always changing. Like,
Yeah.
16 years ago when we got married, I might not have wanted to go to a sex club. Well, now I
Yeah.
do. What I mean
Yeah.
is, like,
Yeah.
we're always changing.
Yeah.
And it's even more fun when the person's like, I didn't know you were, when I first married you, I didn't know. Well, I didn't know this about myself either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I wasn't that person then. So there you go. That's why we got to keep exploring all these things.
I know.
Thank you so much for being here and having this incredible conversation. I feel like we could do a lot more, and maybe we will get the chance to do another one again soon,
I hope
hopefully. Tennille, tell everyone how they can connect with you, how they can follow you on social media, maybe if they want to, get into an actual photo shoot with you. I know that's one of the things on my bucket list, actually, so we'll have to talk about that
yeah,
off
yeah.
air. But
But,
how can everybody connect with you? How can they learn from you and keep following you?
So it's very simple. All of my social media is the name of my company, and it's Romantic Moments by T, and moments is plural. So Romantic Moments by T, T for Tennille. And so romanticmomentsbyt.com. Facebook's the same way. I'm very bad at social media. In all honesty, I cannot stand anything about social media. So I'm very, very, very rarely ever post anything on social media, but everything's updated on my website constantly. That's
Okay.
where you can pretty much find everything on my website. My sex blogs, my coupon codes, my affiliates. Like I said, I am associated with liberator.com and adamandeve.com, and there's just lots of different companies that I partner with. And so so it's mostly Romantic Moments by T. I am in Franklin, Tennessee, which is about 20 minutes south of Nashville.
Yeah.
So if you want to come on out here for a girls' night or girls' weekend or a romantic weekend, I specialize very well in couples boudoir and intimate portraits. So a lot of I would say about 70 to 80% of my clients come from out of state. And
Okay.
love that because they just come for the weekend and have a great romantic getaway. And then they spice up that getaway with doing a photo shoot with me. And then they have such a great memory of their vacation together.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. You're incredible. I love you. I can't wait to have more conversations with you.
Me
And
too.
for everyone that's listening, thank you for joining us. I hope you have a great week until our next episode.
Yay. Thank you, everybody.